Last year, the Philadelphia Eagles brought in a game-changing running back in Saquon Barkley, completely catapulting their rushing offense to the top of the National Football League and to the Super Bowl. And this year, the Pittsburgh Steelers are attempting to do the same thing. But instead of going to free agency to get their running back, they went to the draft, drafting Kaleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa, who they are hoping is going to have a similar style of impact to their offense as Saquon Barkley had with the Eagles last year. Now, make sure you guys stay tuned here because I think Johnson has a major strength in his game that he shares with Saquon Barkley, and the Steelers are hoping is going to be able to translate to the league and make a similar type of impact that Barkley had there in Philly last year. All right, now, before we get into the video, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you are stoked for Kaleb Johnson's career here in Pittsburgh. I know I am. I think he's an awesome fit. We're going to be breaking down why I love him on today's show. Make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you're ready for Kaleb Johnson here in Pittsburgh. So first, let's take a look back here to 2024 and how the Steelers' run game looked last year with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren leading the way. Well, they weren't very good, all right? Rushing attempts per game, 6th in the league, and they were actually 4th in the league in rushing play percentage. So they wanted to run the football. They really tried. They just weren't very good at it, all right? 25th in yards per attempt, 24th in EPA, which was a negative EPA per rush attempt, and they were 28th in success rate. So they weren't a very successful rushing offense whatsoever. You can argue bottom 5, you can argue bottom 10. The moral of the story here, guys, the Steelers did not have a good rushing offense in 2024, and that really, put this offense in dire straits at times. And this offense, led by Arthur Smith, really wants to be led by the rushing attack. And, the two big issues last year, in my opinion, were the offensive line wasn't good enough as a run-blocking unit to be able to have the type of run game they wanted to have. And then Najee Harris, as the second issue here, wasn't really a fit for Arthur Smith's kind of offense here in Pittsburgh. And where it went wrong with Najee Harris is that he's more of a power back, all right? Bigger guy that can move the pile forward. And, I really appreciated the effort that Najee brought to the table here in Pittsburgh. But in an outside zone scheme, you got to have really good vision. You have to identify cutback lanes, and you have to be able to change your direction very rapidly. Put your one foot in the ground and then explode through a hole, pause, if you are the running back in this style of offense. And Najee just isn't that guy. And that's okay, but it just wasn't a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. All right, and I think the lazy comparison is because Najee Harris and Kaleb Johnson are close to the same size, that Kaleb Johnson is the next Najee Harris. Andrew Filipponi, for example, has made this comparison. I think if you actually watch these guys on film and you actually know what you're looking at, they're completely different running backs. So you can take a look at my scouting report on Kaleb Johnson. By the way, I put this together before the Steelers drafted him, so you guys know that it's not biased. But I love his size, 6'1", 224 pounds, is definitely a good thing about him. I think his long speed is really, really good. Now, he ran a 4.57, so we'll address the long speed here in just a second, but I think it's excellent once he gets past the initial line. His vision is off the charts, arguably the best in this entire class. He's got excellent play strength, really tough for safeties and cornerbacks to bring him down out in space. And then the ball security, 0 fumbles, which is very important to Mike Tomlin. He's going to be able to secure that football very consistently. Now, the cons were he's scheme dependent. He doesn't have the best acceleration and agility in the world. So he really does depend on being in an outside zone system, which allows him to get ahead of steam, put his foot in the ground, find and identify a cutback lane, and then get to the second and third levels of the defense. And he's not the best at pass pro, but guess what? Jaylen Warren is just fine at that. And honestly, speaking of a guy that's a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense and what they want to do, like Kaleb Johnson is everything the Steelers were hoping Najee Harris was going to be last year for them, because he still brings the same kind of similar size that Najee brings to the table, but he also brings the vision that Najee lacked, all right, and that big playability and that ability to hit that top gear speed once he gets down the field. And, don't let Kaleb Johnson's, 40-time fool you. And I think a lot of people looked at that 4.57 and said, oh, he's not that fast. He's not that fast. Well, you look at the next gen stats and the kind of GPS measurements that they had, he was clocked at over 22 miles per hour multiple times last year at the University of Iowa. All right, to be running 22 miles per hour, that's like 4.3 level speed. So once Kaleb Johnson gets to that second and third level of the defense, once he gets past that initial line and he gets that initial head of steam, he's one of the fastest running backs in this entire class, running at you like a freight train at over 220 pounds. All right, so like there's not a whole lot of people on the Steelers roster that has hit 22 miles per hour in a game collected by Next Gen Stats. So Kaleb Johnson, you know, he is a big play threat because of that, where he can run away from defensive backs at 220 plus pounds. And, you know, that ability to create big, explosive plays in an outside zone rushing scheme has been something that's been lacking in the Steelers offense for a very, very long time. That Kaleb Johnson, in my opinion, especially if this offensive line develops in the way the Steelers think it's going to develop, has a chance to be really special right out of the gate for the black and gold on offense. And you might be saying at home, but Jack, this offensive line is still a big issue. And I'm with you guys. All right, Pat Meyer is still here. He sucks. Broderick Jones has been terrible the first 2 years of his career at right tackle. Mason McCormick had some struggles last year. Troy Fautano, is he going to be able to stay healthy? I get all the concerns with the offensive line, guys, but Pittsburgh has really put their faith in the development of these young players, and they really believe this unit has what it takes to be a really good group. And I understand why they think that. Broderick Jones, from a physical perspective, is still a really, really good round one pedigree type of left tackle prospect, and he hasn't had the chance to play left tackle yet. Troy Fautano, when he's on the field, he is just absolutely fantastic. And then you got Sayamalu and Frazier, who are perfectly rock solid as well. And then McCormick, the plan was always for him to have this offseason to grow and develop so that heading into his second year, he'd be able to start and replace James Daniels. They like him a lot. And I liked him a lot coming out of South Dakota State last year. So I think that this offensive line, if they do develop, can actually be a very good group. They're very talented. And if that offensive line does hold up, watch out, man, because I think KJ is going to have one of the best rookie seasons of any running back in the entire National Football League because of how good of a fit he is for Arthur Smith's offense. Now, coming up next, I'm going to let you guys know what Kaleb Johnson has in common with Saquon Barkley. Not saying he is Saquon. I'm just going to let you guys know the trait that is very similar to Saquon Barkley that could really make or break Kaleb Johnson's career here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before we get into all that, let's have word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks, which is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash with just downloading the Prize Picks app on your phone for free. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, and all you have to do is pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, and you can also turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Every lineup you make on Prize Picks will enter you in the Takes Two ticket sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1 a VIP trip to the championship. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. You guys can see on screen right now what a PrizePicks projection looks like. I put these in before the playoff series here, before between the Knicks and the Boston Celtics here this week. I took the more on points per game average for Jalen Brunson, who's absolutely balling out right now. I took the more on Kristaps Porzingis in points per game, and I took the less in points per game average from Mikal Bridges. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup on the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, run your game. So Kaleb Johnson's greatest strength, in my opinion, is like Saquon Barkley, Kaleb Johnson only gets better as the game goes on, giving the Pittsburgh Steelers a potential ability to close out games in the fourth quarter with explosive runs and pick up first downs even when the defense knows the Steelers are trying to run the football. This is something they really struggled with in previous seasons. And honestly, with the defensive culture here in Pittsburgh, it's going to be very important to close out games in the fourth quarter moving forward. Kaleb Johnson is the type of guy that's going to be able to do that for you if you have a lead in the fourth quarter, to put a team away, similar to how Saquon Barkley does it for the Philadelphia Eagles. And listen, man, I'm not saying, all right, I want to make this abundantly clear, I do not think Kaleb Johnson is going to have a historically good season this year for the Steelers like Saquon Barkley had for the Eagles last year. I'm just saying that their impact in the fourth quarter, their explosiveness and their stamina to play their best when the game is on the line, when the game is in balance, gives Kaleb Johnson the ability to be Pittsburgh's closer on offense this year. And Mike Tomlin, if you know Mike Tomlin, he really does prefer his closer on offense to be his running back. He wants to have a lead in the fourth quarter, and he wants to run the living daylights out of the football to put a team away. This is what Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, had to say after the Steelers took Kaleb Johnson in round 3 this year. One of the more impressive stats you've seen in the fourth quarter. What did he average in the fourth quarter? I believe it was over 5 yards a carry, might have been closer to 6. So obviously this was on the minds of the Pittsburgh Steelers when they drafted Kaleb, number 83 overall in the third round this year. And the reason why Philadelphia is so unstoppable, guys, is because they can run the football in the fourth quarter extremely effectively with Saquon Barkley, even when the opposing defense knows it's coming. Because Saquon's incredible explosiveness and stamina, his ability to maintain that level of explosiveness throughout the course of a four-quarter football game, is remarkable. All right, and Kaleb Johnson showed exactly that at Iowa last year, putting teams away consistently, having his biggest runs in the fourth quarter to put the team up multiple scores in the fourth quarter, putting a team away. That's what the Steelers are going to be really hoping this kid turns into in his rookie season and heading into his early season careers here. Or its early career seasons here, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. And, you know, I think that it's been pretty well established here that the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to emulate what the Philadelphia Eagles, teams like the Baltimore Ravens, are able to do, where in the fourth quarter you can hand it off to your running back even though the defense is loading up the box, even though they know the run is coming, and still have success. Having a guy that can find open lanes and to pick up first downs and pick up touchdowns in the game's biggest moments, even when the defense is expecting run, is really a superpower that can really help the Steelers enforce their will on their opponents and help them win a maximum amount of football games for their football team this year. And I think that Kaleb's perfect for the job that the Steelers are going to be asking him to do. Obviously, Arthur Smith wants to run a lot of outside zone. I think Kaleb Johnson is by far at his best when he's running outside zone. Obviously, he's used to playing with a lot of heavy tight end sets. Iowa ran a lot of 12 and 13 personnel last year with multiple tight ends. The Steelers want to play that way too. Kaleb Johnson still has a ton of experience. Was a workhorse at the University of Iowa last year. And despite that workhorse kind of workload, he was still playing his best football in the fourth quarter, which I think gives him a chance to be a truly special running back in the National Football League. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm really juiced up for this kid's rookie season. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. What is the percent chance that Kaleb Johnson wins Offensive Rookie of the Year? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me down there in the comments section. Now listen, man, there's a lot of different players in the league, a lot of good rookies that are entering the league here, but how about I give them somewhere between a 5 and 10% chance to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year trophy. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. We got more in-depth Steelers videos coming your way all throughout the week here, so don't miss a moment. Click that subscribe button and join the Steelers Talk family today.